and we'll go into the question session right now, and I'll start off with taking my 5 minutes for that. I do want to welcome once again the three witnesses, and I appreciate very much you being here talking about a very important subject, not only for our business climate and our employment, but also for all Americans who suffer the consequences of rising prices. And this committee has been hearing has been set up mainly to sort out the relationship of monetary policy and why prices go up. A lot of people, as I mentioned in my earlier statement, would like to blame everything else and try to avoid the Fed completely. But I do want to start off with a question about the opposite of what people call inflation, and it was touched upon in the testimony, and that is the deflation. Deflation, of course, for some of us would mean that the money supply is shrinking as it did in the 30s, but others worry, about prices going down. And there's, I guess there's some people who justifiably worry about it, especially when they're overextended and they have to pay their debts. But overall, if we are on a sound monetary system, if we're on a commodity standard, it may well be that prices would go down. And I'd like to ask Professor Salerno to distinguish these two between deflating the money supply and prices going down, and who then would who then would best benefit if prices actually drop. Your mic, please. Your mic.
If we use deflation to mean falling prices, it's the mechanism by which people are benefited, even on fixed incomes, when we have increases in productivity. Increases in productivity result from technological progress and from more saving and investment in the economy. So workers become much more productive, more goods are produced in a given hour, and at the same wages, their standards of living go up because their dollars become more powerful in exchange. If you prevent this drop in prices, then many people who are not involved in the original increase in productivity, people who are in other industries, or people especially on fixed incomes, people on pensions and insurance policies, they benefit from the falling prices. Their real incomes go up.
Thank you. I want to ask Mr. Lehrman a question about the long-term effects of gold. You brought up the subject of gold and some of the advantages. But there's been studies done with gold and stability of prices over a long period of time. So even with an imperfect gold standard, do we not have a fairly good record of stability in prices when it wasn't a fiat currency?
We do, Mr. Chairman. If you'll permit me to wave a piece of paper at you, in my testimony I've charted the price of gold or the value of the dollar. Was all that heard before? We do have the history of the general price level under the gold standard, and I prepared in my written testimony a chart which shows that since the end of the gold standard, that is to say the classical gold standard in 1914 on the eve of the First World War, the value of the dollar as measured by the CPI, adjusted for the available statistics before 1920, has fallen to 5 cents. The value of an ounce of gold in March, on March 15th, or I should say even March 17th today, 1910 was $20 per ounce of gold. On March 15th or March 17th, 2011, 1 century later, the price of gold is approximately $1,400 per ounce. So the price of gold is, as it were, the reciprocal of the fall in the value of the dollar over the same period. During the history of the American Republic, from, let us say, the Constitution of 1788, 89, we can chart the price level quite accurately. And in my testimony, also, I submit such a chart with the Coinage Act of 1792, essentially Alexander Hamilton's Coinage Act of 1792, which made the dollar convertible to precious metals, primarily under the circumstances to silver at first, but by 1834, we were on the gold standard. If you take the price level under the gold standard from 1834, and of course make the exception for the Civil War, which went on for a very long period, where a convertibility was suspension. But if you take from 1834 until 1914, you will find under the gold standard that the general price level, or the CPI, as we would say today, was exactly in the same position. In other words, there was neither over the long run, near a century, over the long run, neither a fall in the general price level, deflation, as Professor Salerno might describe, nor was there any general inflation. So that is, in testing monetary theories or even economic theories, we have only one laboratory. It's the laboratory of human history. And in the laboratory of human history, we find that the gold standard, proven by the price level stability from 1834 until 1914, for example, that the gold standard provides virtual stability in the price level on the average level of general prices.
I thank the gentleman, and we'll go on to Mr. Lukenmauer now for his 5 minutes.